Welcome, everyone, to another installment of the podcast. I'm Cassandra from CassandraTyndall.com. And this week, we're going to be taking an overview of the month of October and some of the planetary cycles that are going to be affecting the energy of the month. So, welcome back if you've been here before. And of course, a big welcome if you're new. If you're catching this podcast on YouTube. I mentioned last week that there's a new feature called Hype. Hype, I believe, is a feature that can sort of just boost the video, can help YouTubers, creators, astrologers, whoever, push out their work a little bit more. So thank you to those who did that last week. And of course, if you want to do it again, I'm not going to be mad about that. So thank you so much. I appreciate it a lot. Now, one little announcement next month, November, an in-person 2026 workshop. So I did that last year, all on this year. In November, we're going to be having a deep dive into the astrology of 2026 to prepare you for a very big year. Now, if you are in Brisbane, which is in Australia, or you can get to Brisbane, I've got quite a few people already booked flying in from interstate. Super exciting. I'd love to see you if you can get here. If obviously you can't, I will be doing a digital version of that online sometime in December. So stay tuned for that. So thank you for that. Let us go into the month of October. Now, October is no different to much of what we've already seen in 2025, where the planets really can't make up their mind where they want to be. September saw Saturn retrograde from Aries back into Pisces, and that is exactly what Neptune is going to do in October. Neptune will retrograde, it's retrograde currently, and it will leave Aries and re enter the sign of Pisces, where it will stay at 29 degrees until January 26th of 2026. So we are really wrapping up this whole Saturn Neptune in Pisces cycle. So this is the big news of October. So to give you a little bit of I guess a way to encapsulate what that might look like. If you're kind of newer to astrology and, okay, well, these planets are retrograding, everyone's talking about that. What can it actually mean? Well, that's going to be very individual for every person, depending on where Pisces is for you. A way to think about that is from March of 2023, when Saturn moved in there. And then prior to that, the very long cycle of Neptune in Pisces first began in 2011 and became a more permanent fixture in 2012. So October starts to bring a process of finalizing up those two cycles. So for example, since 2011, 2012, it's a long period of time, but the whole energy has been Neptune and Pisces. Maybe things not feeling very tangible, a little insubstantial, dreamy, inspired, hopeful, but maybe lacking traction. Maybe things have slipped through your fingers in that particular area of life. Saturn came in 2023, and all of a sudden, you realized you were mighty discombobulated, and Saturn brought in a log that could help you float along the ocean. Uh, Now those two planets moved into Aries, and now they've come back into Pisces. So in some ways, we need to integrate some of the lessons. We need to approach this area of our life with a sense of maturity and action and clarity so we can get that traction around the Pisces parts of our life. So, one of the ways I've been describing this a lot is the idea of committing to a dream. We get one last chance to really do that. And so, uh, another way to sort of look at that from an analogy perspective is also the idea of, maybe it takes twice to break up with somebody. That often happens, right? And so Saturn and Neptune coming back into the Pisces house, it's like giving something else one last shot. or one last try, committing to that dream or committing to that promise. That might be a way to sort of think about the energies as we move into October. And then we'll have until the end of January and mid-February to kind of, gain that traction, achieve those goals, give something one last red hot go, or maybe realize as much as I would like to, as much as I want to, this was just in fact a pipe dream and I have to surrender, let it go, and you know, it is what it is kind of thing. So think about the Pisces part of your life and what that might look like for you. So that's one way to think about the month of October as we approach it, because it will be very much the end of September by the time this podcast comes out. Another issue, or not another issue, it's kind of an issue with all of these planets kind of being very all over the place. But another feature, I should probably say, of the month of October is that Pluto will station direct. Excuse me. Now, the reason why I bring this one up is because Pluto has been retrograde since May. Now, Pluto spends a long time retrograde, so what's the big deal? This one I think is a big deal. Reason being is that this is the first retrogradation of Pluto we've had where it hasn't gone back into Capricorn. So in short, we've kind of almost sort of done a full retrograde of Pluto in Aquarius now. So we really kind of know almost 12 months in, because Pluto it first moved into Aquarius in March of 2023, but it stayed in Aquarius as of November of 2024. So that's nearly a year ago now. And now we've kind of had a full sort of gamut of what it looks like to have Pluto ingress, stay there, retrograde, stay there, and then come direct again. So if you have a planet or an angle at sort of 0 or 1 degree of Aquarius, or the other fixed signs, which is Taurus, Leo, and Scorpio, then this is great news for you because technically speaking, your Pluto transit will be over. So on the collective uh, on the collective stage, we've definitely had, particularly during this retrograde phase, I feel a really big leap forward in the social evolution, revolution, however you want to see that, where, when I think about Pluto, Pluto and Saturn are two planets that when they retrograde and then station direct again, we really feel them. Saturn can bring that the weightiness, the gravitas, the pressure of time, the pressure of responsibility, and sort of picking up your proverbial socks. Pluto is different in the sense that you feel it, but you're not sure what you're feeling exactly. If there are any Tool fans watching, you'll get this. The song Undertow, where something kind of pulls you in and drags you under. That's the feeling of Pluto. And the retrograde period, we kind of got a little bit of a reprieve, like the sense that the tide changed. And the tides did change in May because, that was when Saturn moved into Aries. But now Saturn and Neptune have moved back into Pisces, which is very oceanic tides, all of that stuff. And then Pluto will station direct. And so Pluto rules things such as power, control, corruption, and those types of things. So think kind of the powers that be, big companies, big governments, big tech, all of that stuff. Now, since Pluto has been retrograde, it's almost as though the people, the collective, have kind of gone WTF. And we've seen a lot of protests, a lot of protests, a lot of sort of people kind of waking up and creating a change in the current, a change in the tide, a change in the atmosphere. This month, Pluto will station direct. And so that means that the forces of power, the forces of government, the forces of corruption, of all of that type of energy is back in full force. And we'll see that. Uh, I could talk for another 20 minutes about the ways in which we'll see that. But as you can probably tell, I'm here in Australia and, our people that are in charge are really wanting to control very Pluto, the access of information that we get. And that's the whole implementation of a greater plan. And if you are aware of this, you're aware of that. And I think what we will see with Pluto in Aquarius direct is that we'll start to see some of those implementations come down the line at full force. And then maybe in May next year, 2026, when Pluto then retrogrades again, we'll kind of have maybe a little bit of a pullback of that energy. So this is something to keep awareness around in October, of the energy of Pluto. So those kind of bigger what's the word? I can't even talk now. The big periods of time which Pluto in Aquarius is going to take care of, which is 20 years, we'll start to see those timelines come into focus. For the most part, it's been a lot of speculation that's been like totally obvious. It's barely even speculation. But now, if you can't see that reality, well, you're not going to see it. So, October will also see Jupiter start to slow down a little bit because it will retrograde next month. We'll see Mars in Scorpio, so that is wonderful because we have Mars is potent and powerful in its own sign of Scorpio. And then by the 14th, Venus will move into Libra. So we're going to have Jupiter, Mars, and Venus all in their own signs. So there's a lot of harmony, support, power, and sort of strength in the sky in October. So let's just back things up a little bit and talk about Pisces, Saturn, Neptune just a little bit more. Because I want you to think about in your own life the Pisces part of your birth chart. If you're not sure what that is, you can go to a website like astro.com, AstroSeek, punch in your data, and you will get your ascendant, assuming that you know your birth time. And then whatever house in your horoscope is ruled by the sign of Pisces will be where this action is taking place. Now, I'm sure most of you who are listening are aware of which house it is, but for those who may not be sure, that's one of the ways you can find out more about it. Of course, I do readings a lot. I do a lot of readings each week. So, of course, if you would like to book in and have a more of a personal exploration of these energies, more than happy to help you. And then, of course, the Golden Circle, which is my astrology membership, is another place where you can get more guidance, insight, and how to navigate a lot of these energies as well. So, Saturn's already there in Pisces, and then Neptune's going to come back in October. So, themes of compassion, of sensitivities, that empathic, psychic, spongy type energies will be back in full force. So, one thing I want to sort of really think about, though, and encourage you to think about, even though Saturn is now back in Pisces, Neptune is going to be back in Pisces. They're not the same because they've been in Aries only briefly. But once you've been touched by fire, you're still burned. You know what I mean? You've been awakened, you've been energized, you've been inspired by something new. It's the idea of once your mind has been stretched into a new dimension, you can't really stretch it back and minimize it again. And so Saturn and Neptune are coming back, but sort of a different version of themselves, if that makes sense. So when you apply that to your own Pisces parts of your chart, it's this idea of maybe where have you been, she'll be right, mate, as we'd say in Australia. Where have you been going along to get along? Maybe where you've been thinking that the idea of compassion, negotiation, kindness, forgiveness, um, turning the other cheek, um, all is one, those things can be very helpful conceptually, but are they working for you practically? So Saturn's already there, testing those boundaries, and now Neptune's going to come in and flood them. And so we need to adopt the sort of wisdom of the Saturnian experience to be able to differentiate and discern where to be compassionate, where to be forgiving. Has the person earned my mercy? Have they earned my forgiveness or my support or my compassion or my care? So this is kind of a wiser version of Pisces as opposed to the version that we've had before. And I really do think we will see this collectively where the things that may have washed previously just won't wash a second time around. And this can take in many different ways, shapes, and forms. So on the personal, we're having to integrate these lessons in our Pisces parts of our charts. Where were you back in 2011, 2012, and how did that area of your life change for you? Saturn can now help you get clear, have that last hurrah, have that last good hot red go at making something real that has felt intangible. I'll give you an example. Pisces is my 10th house, so MC, career, all of that jazz. And say, for example, prior to or around 2011, I would tell people I was an astrologer, that I, wrote horoscopes, I taught astrology, I did readings for people, and people just, or I'd work online doing Skype calls or on the telephone, and people would look at me and think, how does that work? How do you make money? Like, how do you even work from home? And so that was just such a foreign concept to so many people. Now, no one bats an eyelid when I tell them what I do or that I work from home. They might be a little bit envious or jealous because the most amount of traffic I will experience every day is walking over my horizontally challenged cat. But case in point, I turned something that seemed intangible, ridiculous, and totally nonsensical into something now that people just get. They do themselves. So this might take a different form for you. This could be maybe it's a financial goal that you've had, and Neptune and Pisces just saw you leak cash or not be able to take control of your finances. And maybe now this is the last time for you to really implement a dream. Maybe Pisces is your seventh house, for example, and relationships have been a little flaky, a little insubstantial. Maybe you've not been connecting with the types of people who are available for you for the long term or in a committed way. Maybe this is the time where you kind of take things more seriously. You have more discernment with who you connect with or connect to, and creating those kind of boundaries that are workable with more clarity and more focus. Maybe you're not willing to negotiate what those boundaries are anymore. It's this or it's that. Right now, I'm reading a book called Never Split the Difference from Chris Voss. And so, if you're not familiar with him, he used to be the FBI's head negotiator and terrorism, kidnapping, all sorts of things. And he has some really amazing insights around to get the best outcomes. It's usually no negotiation at all. And he goes through all these really interesting ways of doing it. And so, for example, the idea was you never negotiate with terrorists. Now we seem to want to do that. And where is that kind of getting things? So, a way to think about it anyway. Another way to think about this Saturn Neptune is building your ark. So, the theme of Noah's Ark, where the great flood was coming, you had to build a boat or a vessel, and you had to save the world by deciding whom and what you're going to save. And so, again, filter those ideas into the Pisces part of your chart. Is it saving money, saving a relationship? Saving yourself, for instance, it could take many shapes and forms. So, so there's really going to be those themes coming in strong on the personal and on the collective upcoming in the month of October. So, if you would like to explore more of October and beyond, I'd love to invite you into the Golden Circle. Do you want to say hi to the people, Winston? I'd love to invite you into the Golden Circle. You're free to join that anytime. You don't have to wait for a specific opening or a specific month. And therein, you'll find more detailed information about the month of November and and beyond. You'll be able to look at previous months as well. The whole back catalog is there. There's a lot of member benefits, such as the new moon call each month. There's the chat, there's the forum, there's the discussions, and a lot of other things going on there as well. So if you would like to join the Golden Circle, the link is below, and I'll put a link for my in-person workshop. I'm super excited to be offering that one again this year. I'm nearly at half capacity now. So if you're kind of umming and ahhing, I would imagine get in quick. There's people flying in from interstate in Australia, which is awesome as well. So do catch that. If you've not subscribed to the YouTube channel yet, consider doing that. Consider hitting that hype button. And I really look forward to seeing you in the next episode.